Email inboxes are crowded, and people's attention is not here right now. They have other things to focus on, including COVID, kids home, job situations, money, all the different things happening. So we, as business owners, have to work even harder to get our message in front of the right people so that we can help them overcome some of those problems, which is why I put together today's ACC TV episode to talk specifically about that. The email inbox, or getting in people's inboxes, is super powerful, but it's only as powerful as the next click. So we need to get those headlines written and created so that people are excited to see what's inside. Today's episode is going to give you 3 tips on how to get those emails opened quickly so you can get more traction with your email marketing and get more of your emails open so that you can move people further through your sales cycle. If you're new to the channel, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. So if you were to look at your emails this morning, you probably could see there were quite a few that stood out. Some people have gotten pretty good at this and some people have not. And one of the best ways to stand out in the inbox is to do something different. And what I mean by that is, like, you don't want to go crazy and do things that are going to get you spammed. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But you do want to add something a little bit fun or interesting to the headline because it makes it pop out of the inbox. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll add an emoji. Now, I learned something new recently that I'm going to share with you in just a second, but you could add an emoji that relates to your headline. You could add some different characters, like maybe a percent sign or a number sign. You don't want to go too crazy, but you might want to add those in there, or you may even want to add something like numbers. So you might want to do like the number 1. So you would have the number sign and the 1 reason that blah, 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 whatever it is. The number 1 reason that pumpkin cheesecake is so popular, for example. And so when you add that in there, any of those things are going to make it stand out a little bit more than just a generic headline. Now, what's interesting about email is that you're not able to really do anything like bold or change the font of the headline, because that would be really cool if we could do that. But right now the capabilities don't exist to do that. But for those headlines to make them pop out by just adding an emoji, don't go crazy. Like, don't go to emoji heaven and like add every emoji in the world, but add an emoji, add a number, or add some characters. Now, something I learned recently is that you don't want to add an emoji to your email as the start every single time, because what it could do, and this happened to me, that's how I know, is it could trigger your email to bounce to spam, which means the people on your email list are never going to see that email. And so, like anything else in life, you want to play with these and test them, but you also don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again, because email spam filters are smart, and you don't want your email to be removed for spam simply because you put that emoji character in there too often. So that is tip number 1. So let's dive into tip number 2. Tip number 2 is pretty simple. We want to open a story loop with our headline. And so what does that mean? That's kind of marketing jargon, and so you might not know what that means. But a story loop is basically you start a story, and the only way that they can go further into the story or get that question answered, a lot of times these are started with a question, is to open the email. And once you have that curiosity piqued, so most people, I don't have a percentage in front of me, but most people will do anything to find out the end of the story or to find out the answer to the question. The key is making that question so interesting that they can't do anything but click on it to find out. And then we're not going to talk about that in this video, but in an upcoming video, you don't want to drop the ball once they open the email. That's the key number 2. So tip number 2 is to create a story loop. I'm going to give you an example of that in just a few minutes because I'm going to do some email teardowns. Tip number 3 has already come up in this episode, so it can't be any surprise that you want to avoid spam triggers. And you may or may not know that there are certain words that can trigger you to go into spam. Not just emojis, not just characters, but actual words that you might put in your headlines. You need to be aware of these, which is why I created a resource for you that lists a lot of the spam words for this year and beyond to avoid. And you can grab that by clicking the link in the description below, and you can just go download that for free. But here are just a few to give you some ideas of words to avoid. Buy now. The reason some of these are trigger words for spam is that we have the world of internet marketing, and we've got some really, not nice people out there that have kind of ruined it for the rest of us. I'm sure you've gotten a million of those spammy emails, and there's a reason they're called spammy emails. It's because they use these terms and they end up in the spam folder. Spam filters have gotten a lot more intelligent over the years, and so I want you to avoid being put into the spam filter on accident simply because you used one of these words. So of course, buy or buy now, click now, click below. Just stay away from click, stay away from the word guarantee, stay away from the word free anything. Even if it's a free download, you can still get tagged or pinged, and you want to avoid that chance as much as possible, because you want to get into as many inboxes as possible so that you can, move those people through your sales funnel and get them to purchase. So here's a few more. Call now, limited time, anything instant, anything that says 100%. So you don't want to use like 100% guaranteed or 100% anything, because it will automatically trigger you to go into the spam filter. So to grab that list, once again, of all of the words that I put together, I can't remember exactly how many are in there, but I put together a whole little checklist for you so you can just look through it. It's in alphabetical order, so you can avoid those words. Just click the link below and go grab that list. Now, you know me, I always like to have a bonus tip in this episode, and this episode is no exception. So the bonus tip is, and I've got some examples to show you actually of these, is do not use in your subject line RE:. That means regarding blah, blah, blah. Unless you actually have had a conversation with somebody, you don't want to use that, because it's an immediate ting to the person receiving it that this is spam or a sales conversation. I have had this happen multiple times. I have some of these samples and I'm going to pull up in just a minute, and then I've rewritten them so that you can see what they should look like instead of the email headline that they had in there. So let's dive into those really quick. So just a heads up, if you send me an email, and I'm happy to give you some advice and info on how to fix it, but all bets are off if emails come to me and they're terrible. So this is one that I got from a organization here in Denver, and the headline was a question about Memorable. Okay, so apparently I signed up for this Memorable app, or somehow got signed up for it. That often happens. And this lady just basically went through and pulled whatever information off of there that she could find and my email, and sent me this email. So when you first look at this, the email is terrible to begin with. It's totally salesy and yucky. And there were other emails that she sent me that then followed this one that said RE, our email correspondence, or RE, follow up on our emails, all of that sort of stuff. And so even this one, she had an RE regarding Memorable. I didn't pull them all in here, but what is a different way that she could have piqued my curiosity about joining the Denver Women Leaders and their online conference. It's basically an online conference. So I rewrote this, and the headline that I came up with is, what do Siemens Healthcare, NASA, and Adobe have in common? That is a headline that would have grabbed my attention. I'm like, I'm curious, like, what is that? Well, when I went to their website to research, how else I could rewrite this, those are all partners that are part of this organization that often have key presenters that come and speak. To me, that's much more interesting, and it's much less sleazy than what this is. So going back to our tips, how can you phrase a question, or what kind of research can you do ahead of time for your audience, or if you're doing sales emails like this for whomever you're sending it to, that would pique their interest. So doing a little bit of extra work is going to get you in front of your people and keep you there. And they're going to not only open your current emails, but they're going to look forward to future emails. So let's dive into another example that I have here. So this next example is actually from an email lists that I'm on, and I really appreciate them. But I always like to see like how I could rewrite things so that they would be more appealing. So the headline for this was just dropped. They just released a brand new planner. I have some of their other planners. And so there's a little bit of history here, but if I was just receiving this, like, and I don't get a ton of email from them, but if I hadn't known what was going on, this email would have been totally like, I would have just deleted it. In fact, I don't even know if I really read it when I saw it because I knew what it was for. And they go through like a lot of the things that you can do with the planner. But to me, it was like a little too much. It was a little too heavy on the sales and not enough on focused on the problem. And so the rewrite that I came up with this is, instead of saying just dropped, exclamation point, these were several different options. So killing your next 90-day goal, ... Anytime you can use like those, I hate using like killer or killing, but they perform really well analytically in those like action words that are just like very descriptive. Some people enjoy them, they like them, and they open the email. So something else to keep in mind. Make your Q4 goal with a little help from your friends, and then have an arrow that points down. It's not too late to make 2020 great. And then the last one I had was 90 days to kick 2020's butt. Here's how. And so those are all different options that would be a little bit more informative for the reader and would probably get them more likely clicked on than just dropped. Because to me, I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't know what that means. And anytime you confuse your audience, they're not going to take action. And so keep that in mind when you're writing your headlines. If they're confusing, people are just going to be like, I don't have time. I don't have the brain power or the energy to figure out what they're talking about. And they will just delete it or go to spam. So that is example number 2. Let's pop into example number 3. So this was the subject line for this email was my Instagram handle and the company name. So I have blocked out the company name, obviously, because I want to try and not be too mean to these people. But that is for me, I'm like, they're trying to personalize the interaction, but in reality, it's like, I don't know who you are. You've basically knocked on my door and are trying to sell me something that I know nothing about, or that would be of interest to me. And then as they go into the email, this is why sales emails fail right here. This is a perfect example because all they've done is talk about themselves, their product, and what they do, and all about them. And so if I can teach you anything from this one example, it's people don't care about you. They care about solving their problems. And so the way that I rewrote this headline, which I think would be much more interesting, of course, the entire email needs to be rewritten as well, but an email rewrite for this that would still be in alignment with their business is 3 ways Instagram will overpower Facebook in 2021. To me, I'm on Instagram and I want to know, is it going to overpower Facebook, and how is that going to work? And if you go into detail in that email, you've hooked my interest and I will keep reading. So those are the 3 examples that I have put together for you today. Thanks for tuning in to today's video. If this has been helpful, once again, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to grab the spam list with the link below in the description so that you can avoid any of those spam words in your emails in the future, and hopefully avoid the spam filter as well. Thanks for tuning in. Again, take care, be well, and stay safe.